Hello everybody. I was working on this track and I wanted an excuse to show it off, so today I'm making a reminder to keep it simple. I'm going to play through this track, or at least this section of the track real quick, and then I'm going to break it down. So here's what I got. I'm going to disable this for now. So my sound design is pretty simple. I don't really layer stuff that much beyond drums. The main sound you're hearing is this bass for the most part. That shouldn't even be in the bass. Wait, are all these in the bass group? Oops. It's not supposed to be there. And I can move that. Okay. And the way I make this is I do a sub, right? And I have a video on that. And then this shit, it's literally just 2 layers. And I created this sound by just distorting the shit out of it. If I turn all these off, it sounds like... Yeah, so it's just like a detuned saw wave, pretty much, and then the Pigment's harmonic engine, which is really cool. I don't really know how it works. I just kind of turned some of these knobs until it sounded cool, and then piled a shit ton of distortion onto it. And then I did this EQ thing to fill in some of the dead space. So it kind of like creates these risers. And I did that by putting the reverb on a rack and then made it full dry wet, so it's more like a return, just with the dry chain afterwards. And then I have a utility here that's being automated from 0, so it basically mutes the reverb. So you're basically just controlling the output volume of the reverb at that point. Cool. So, and then to keep it interesting, because it's pretty simple, playing with a little bit of call and response here, I have these breaks every time the synth cuts out. And what that does is, by removing sounds and like filling in these blocks with not a lot, is it lets us push all of these sounds super heavy. So everything here is being like clipped and thrown through limiters, right? Like the whole bass channel is getting compressed together. It's a very light compression, but my sub is being slammed into a limiter. And then my drums have a limiter after they're already being clipped. I guess the snare's not being clipped, but and the drum loop is really not that complicated. It's like, and then I'm automating dry wet on some of these break samples too, and I have this thing in the middle. Which just adds a little bit of variation, And that's pretty much the whole sound. And then I was playing around and I added some vocals. It does sound a little bit empty. I think vocals really help any track. I don't know any vocalists, so I kind of just grab shit from Splice, but Splice doesn't really have a lot of cool stuff. So I just kind of grabbed a random song from my music folder, TI-24s, and this is what it sounds like. I basically am automating a resonator to give it kind of a synthy sound and to try and force it to fit in key and all that. And it's taking MIDI from here, which is basically just these chords. I just put some spots in the middle so it doesn't just disable. but that's like really pushing the limit. Like, if I were to finish the song and keep those in, I wouldn't add anything else in this drop probably. Like, I would still adjust some of the mixing stuff probably. It's not the best mix, but you know, yeah. Or if I disable this, you can. I like layering shit. This all started down here as this. But then I just kept adding, instead of layering new synths, I just kept packing more and more into this one sound to get it as harmonically rich as possible. And I wrote these other notes that I really like the sound of, but I don't think they work here. I might use them for an alternate drop using the same chords, but this is an example of, you don't have to, you can experiment. You can create all these different sounds, but then start to strip them away and find the core fundamentals and really push those. So this sounds cool. But I would probably save those for another point in the song because this is like the main drop. And down here, you can see I had more stuff originally that I was also going to use. This is what the drop sounded like before. I had this thing, which is cool. It's on its own. I could make another drop with just that, right? But putting them all together, it just sounds like too much. So you gotta learn to like strip things away and get your core sounds to be really strong. And this also makes mixing a lot easier because you have a lot less stuff to balance. I mean, for the most part, I'm just compressing and limiting everything on its own and then EQing it a little bit to fit the rest of the track. Most of the EQ that I have going on is just tone shaping and removing resonances that I don't like my drums up here. I don't even have an EQ on these. I don't have an EQ either. I have a vocoder that's kind of a little bit boosting, doing whatever to the highs, right? Barely even audible, right? And up here, I have a reverb. I have a little bit of an EQ. Snare has a bit of an EQ. Kick doesn't even, the kick sample was already so like overprocessed. It really didn't need anything. And of course the important thing to remember while pushing things really loud like this, to keep it sounding really clean, is a good sidechain. Here I'm limiting everything again for the whole like synth group and all that. And then I'm sidechaining it to the kick. I like Kickstart too. This is my favorite sidechain plugin recently. Duck Buddy is also very good if you're on Ableton. But this basically just takes an audio input. So I have one for the kick and one for the snare. And it's ducking almost to 0. And you want to pull off it really quickly so it sounds really tight and clean. And you don't really hear it until you turn it off. It really makes a huge difference. So yeah, there's your PSA for today. Keep it simple. You can experiment, but then start to strip it back and find the important parts. And then dress it from there with ear candy or reverb automations or whatever you want to do.